Ah yes, Elden Ring, one of the games of all time. As a masochist who's played the entire um Soulsborne Kiro Ring series for 13 years. God, this is a stupid name. I will say that I like the games, just a little bit, not that much. And Elden Ring is definitely not an exception. My favorite part about the series is that if you can find a way to deal damage, no matter how ridiculous that method might be, you can beat the game with it, and Elden Ring is pretty good at this. What do I mean by ridiculous methods? Things like jars, jar cannons, bleeding frost, spirit ashes. My favorite one being Latenna the Albinaric. Now if I'm being honest, I use Latenna a little bit every now and then, sometimes. But at some point I wondered, what if I only used her? Could she crawl her way to the Elden Throne while carrying me on her back? Is she a better goal than Ronnie? FBI, open up! Okay, well, what do I mean by only use Latenna? If you've never used or seen Latenna, her description is literally cannot move. So she's probably the worst Spirit Ash in a 1v1 scenario, given that her only option to survive is to sit there. So how do you even use her effectively? Well, Latenna's main feature isn't her legs, but it's her consistent and very long range damage output. And when I say long range, I'm talking like a goddamn football field. This pretty much means that you're playing decoy while Latenna shoots the bosses. You pop Latenna down, you distract the boss, she shoots the boss, and at some point you'll win without ever attacking them. Now you're probably thinking, okay, how do you distract the boss without attacking? And I can already see the comments now. Shiburi's woe. It's so easy, just read the description, it draws aggro constantly, just use Shiburi's woe. Well, I'm not sorry to burst your bubble, but it doesn't work with most Spirit Ashes, Latenna included. If it was that easy, then everyone would just be using it and playing like a tank in an MMO while their Spirit Ash goes to town. It does work in multiplayer, somewhat, so don't get me wrong on that, but I'm here for Latenna. But don't worry though, within my game knowledge bag of tricks, I have ways to make this run work. If you ever doubted the power of Latenna, then prepare to become a believer as she takes us on the path to becoming Elden Lord. Our first step is to make a character, one that will protect Latenna at all costs. Then we take the fastest path in life, which is death. We keep moving and do the normal bucket list of talking to NPCs, getting the essentials, and general exploration. One thing on the list to do is to get upgrades for a decent weapon until we can actually get Latenna. Of course you can do this without killing anything, but for the sake of this run, I'm just gonna murder these scarabs. I'm less interested in the pacifist run, and more interested in
testing Latenna's power.
We take the shortcut into Liurnia for better access to upgrades, so that would be Somber Stones 2, 3, and 4. Then we grab Dectus Lift's Grace for later since we're already done with this area. Now that we've done Limgrave and Liurnia, we can move on to the next logical step, Caelid. I take the Yamfa strategy of getting kidnapped to the mines because I will do anything and everything for Latenna.
I don't like where this is going.
Okay. After some quick upgrading, I go ahead and grab the Somberstone 5 before moving on and unlocking Roundtable Hold. Well, of course, needs to upgrade our gear in Latenna later on anyway. I do Roderica's quest and move back into Caelid. We want to move towards Dragon Barrow, getting these runes along the way for as much easy cash as possible. Oh shit, fuck. After I totally nailed the quit game reset, we just keep moving and grab all the loot possible. We go into every new player's favorite area, Fort Faroth, more so for the Dectus Medallion and this Golden Rune 12, but since the source hill's right there, might as well get it. Then I hoof it up north towards the tree and just grab more runes. Before leaving, I go up to the Isolated Merchant for the Beast Repellent Torch, which will come in handy later. After Caelid, I grab more money and go to Fort Height, again for the Dectus Medallion. Of course, this guy doesn't have to die, but Latenna never said that she didn't want sacrifices. Then I grab the Physic nearby before moving on to Dectus Lift. Keep in mind, I haven't leveled up at all, so we're at Altus Plateau at base level, with only thoughts and prayers to protect me. I do the typical ritual of grabbing every golden seed in sight before making my way to Mount Gelmir. While running away in sheer fear and panic, I grab more runes and the last stone I want to get, Somber Stone 6. Now it's time to actually get the weapon I'm interested in. I run on through to Altus, straight to one of the worst catacombs in the game.
No. Wait.
Luckily, the weapon is right behind this stone sword door called the Golden Epitaph. Now, why specifically this weapon? Well, it fits perfectly into Confessor's base stats, absolutely annihilates the undead, and it looks cool. I go ahead and boost it to +6, and we're just going to use that until we get to Latenna. But before we get Latenna, we need to get Ghostward Upgrader later on. So I go back to the Catacomb. This is also a reason I'm using the Golden Epitaph. This grave has Ghostward 5 and 6, which will make Latenna that much stronger early on, but there's still one more thing to get here, and that requires solving the puzzle of the Catacomb. I go ahead and do the puzzle before... After taking the fast path in life, I run back and get the Chariot's Drop, Holy Ground and Tree Sentinel Armor. All for Latenna. I reclaim my runes and get out. Leaving the Catacomb, I go over to this nearby merchant and buy the Distinguished Great Shield, which is a cheap but effective great shield to use. After that, I hoof it around, past the Mariner, past the Magma Worm, grab more runes, and to another Catacomb. But why? Luckily this is short, we just need to knock out the skeletons and keep moving forward. When we get to the end, the ghost word we need is in a room where the pages can one-shot us.
Stop! 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 No! Yes!
After dodging everything with grace, I grab the Ghostward 7, quit out like a coward to drop the aggro, and escape the Catacomb. I go back to the round table to do Brother Corin's quest. Long story short, I bring him the gold mask and buy the Great Heal. So now that we have Ghostward 5, 6, and 7, where do we get Ghostward 1 through 4? Well, that's pretty easy. Those are in Seofria. Well, man, I don't know how to pronounce these. And here they are, Ghostward 1, 2, 3, and 4. After admiring the amount of work and preparation put into this, I can actually get Latenna now and use her at +7 right off the bat. She's hidden behind a Bloodhound Knight in Lakeside Crystal Cave. This is also the only mandatory kill we do by actively attacking a boss. Using the Beast Repellent Torch, I can explore this place in peace. And just for this boss, I actually picked the Fanged Imp summons as a starting gift. Nothing special, not really hard. I mean, you know, I made this +6 weapon for a reason. To absolutely destroy the captor of my goddess. Afterward, I finally come face to face with Latenna. But at this point she'll reject us, so we gotta prove that we're boyfriend material to her. Just a quick hoof to Albanark village and we grab the secret medallion half from Albus. Now she'll actually accept me as a worthy subject. After sipping for her for about 2 minutes, she joins the cult I made for her. I go back to upgrade her and I forgot about this guy. The second mandatory kill of the game. After that short inconvenience, I upgrade Latenna to +7, making her damage respectable enough to kill most early to mid-game bosses. This means we can actually start taking some out. So now that I have Latenna, these are the rules for the rest of the run. I have to use Latenna when she's available, and I can't throw out an attack from either hand. I can still block, use items for utility, and cast support or buff spells. I won't kill any enemies aside from bosses. Now I could have stuck to that last rule before Latenna, but I mean, it's like what, 2 scarabs, 4 skeletons, and a knight? I mean, they could have lived, but where's the fun in that? The first boss on the menu is this Erdtree avatar on the left side of Liurnia. But before I do that, I need to explain how to use Latenna. Fun fact, I actually used to be a college tutor, so I'm gonna try and apply that experience here. It's time for an unprofessional lesson on using Latenna! Alright, anyways. There's 2 ways to pull aggro in Elden Ring. You can pull aggro by hitting the boss, or by being the closest one to the boss. Hitting a boss will have them attack you a few times. Shabriri's Woe will increase the number of attacks the boss targets you with. You could say that it amplifies aggro, but it does nothing to draw aggro alone, meaning if someone else hits the boss, they're gonna take full aggro instead of you. It doesn't create aggro as if you hit the boss. It also doesn't amplify the aggro for most Spirit Ashes. You'll create the same amount of aggro on hit with Shabriri's Woe on. After a boss attacks you a few times after being hit, they'll target the next closest person for aggro. For melee-oriented bosses, you're usually still the closest target anyway, so they'll naturally keep attacking you even if you haven't hit them yet. If you get far enough away, they will switch aggro to someone else that's closer than you are. The exceptions to this are if you're knocked down, or if you're just too far away. When you're knocked down, bosses give you a chance to recover. This allows them to actually switch aggro to someone else if they're available. I'll explain what I mean by too far away later. Now as for Latenna, there's two types of bosses that she deals with. The first type are open world bosses where she can defeat them without you playing decoy. They're typically found outside on the field where Torrent is usable. You pretty much don't have to do anything, buffing is optional and healing is rarely needed. The second type are fog gate bosses. These bosses need you to play decoy at some point, usually at the beginning. They're found in designated arenas, usually behind a fog gate. For this you only draw aggro briefly at the beginning, or you're keeping it for the entire fight. For both types, they have an aggro range. This is a range that follows the boss as they move around. Bosses can target and attack anyone inside this range. For open world bosses, they have a leash range. This is a range that doesn't follow the boss. It stays on the spot where they sit idle before you actually start the fight. If the boss leaves this range, they'll stop attacking and try to go back to that spot, usually by teleporting. Aside from safe spots like high places, this is the best way to beat open world bosses with Latenna. Fog gate bosses don't have a leash range since their entire arena is where they can fight. They don't have safe spots for Latenna either, so how do you deal with those? Well, they have something that I like to call a preferred target range. Remember the too far away exception? Basically, both types of bosses have a preferred target range where they choose to attack the closest person in this range, but not a person outside of it, even if the person outside is hitting them. This means if you can keep Latenna out of the preferred target range, she can shoot the bosses freely without ever taking aggro. You don't even have to keep aggro when she's outside. This is the main reason why Shabriri's Woe is redundant, since you actually don't have to keep aggro when this happens. You only have to draw aggro for the first few seconds of the fight, so that way you can just lure the boss away from Latenna. Once the boss is far away enough, they'll never attack Latenna since you're going to be the only one in the preferred target range. Of course, a few bosses don't allow for this since their arena is just too small, meaning you're playing decoy the entire time for those, but I still have a way to deal with that. Keep in mind, this isn't peer-reviewed by the almighty Reddit Council and the Gatekeeping Soul Society, but you can apply this explanation and see that it works for the most part. In other words, this is how I interpret it. When I'm playing, it works the way that I see it. Latenna's safe and happy, so I'm happy. I'm not safe though. I'll notate how I deal with each boss as we go along. So for this Liurnia avatar, he has a ranged attack, so leashing won't work very well. However, this preferred target range is really easy to keep Latenna out of. He's only going to target me instead of Latenna due to me being in his preferred target range, but Latenna shooting outside of it. All I have to do is exist while Latenna does the work. We get the Cerulean and Ruptured Tear for valiantly defeating the avatar. The Cerulean is okay for the infinite mana for summoning Latenna, but the Ruptured Tear is what we really wanted. The next boss on the list to poach is Commander O'Neill for his standard. While the Erdtree avatar was necessary, O'Neill isn't. I'm doing this for that thing that people want to have while playing games. What was it called again? Oh yeah, fun. O'Neill can be put in the category of a boss with a safe spot. All I have to do is put Latenna nice and high and he'll never touch her. Well, except for his minions. The small ones can shoot her a little bit, but nothing to worry about. I just chill up here while he gets turned into a walking pincushion. If you've ever played RuneScape, this might seem pretty familiar. When he's low enough in HP, he'll summon the bigger boys. Latenna could just shoot them down, so I shouldn't have to work. I ride to Latenna's side like a white knight and protector.
You better stop!
Remember how I said I'm still allowed to use items? Well, in an act of pure devotion, I give up my body for Latenna's safety.
Sam!
I actually didn't need to do that. They're pretty dumb, so they end up falling off anyway. I'm just proving my dedication to Latenna. Meanwhile, O'Neil is just vibing by himself. Eventually, Latenna shoots the last of the minions and then gives O'Neil reconstructive acupuncture. For defeating him, we get the Commander Standard. It boosts Latenna's damage whenever we get the opportunity to do so. I also finally get to beef myself up with some levels. So now let's try Margit. I mean, he's the intended first boss, it should be a cakewalk. So let's go over what we know. He's a Foggate boss, so there's no safe spots. He does have a preferred target range, but we don't have a way to get Latenna out of it. We also don't have a way to draw aggro, so we can't play decoy. Well, what if we just abandon the strategy? Let's just go in there. We have Latenna at +7, we have Holy Ground and Great Heal for defense, and the Commander Standard for offense. It's only Margit, we could probably just brute force it with pure numbers. I pop Latenna down and use everything I have at my disposal to try and out-heal Margit's damage.
Oh, these are pretty cool bananas.
I even sacrifice myself to try and help her out by drawing aggro for a single attack. Despite being a +7 Spirit Ash, Margit's making her look like a +0. I actually managed to pull aggro after he knocks Latenna down, since that's when bosses would give you time to recover. With only thoughts and prayers, Latenna actually pulls through after getting brutalized. Okay, clearly we need to use our strategies from before. Open world bosses might be fine, but we don't have a way to deal with Foggate bosses. I mean, Latenna barely handled Margit without a strategy. We need a way to draw aggro without attacking, so we can lure bosses away from Latenna. Now there's a piece of gear that allows us to do this, one that's actually required for this run to work, which requires beating Elmer the Briar in the Shaded Castle. Alright, well, we could just walk up and beat him up, right? Just mosey on to Shaded Castle and teach him a lesson. Unfortunately, his arena is literally the antithesis to our strategy. It's puny, and we have no way to draw aggro before beating him. Okay, alright, but we have healing and buffs. Maybe she could just brute force it like Margit. If we can get past Elmer of the Briar, we should be good for the rest of the game.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just...
Please stop.
I'm joking! Stop! 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 Stop the break! Stop! Stop!
Oh my god.
Yeah, that's not happening. This is like the whole job thing of needing experience to get a job, but no job's gonna hire you without experience. We need to beat Elmer of the Briar to draw aggro without attacking, but we have no way to draw its aggro without attacking. At this point it seems kinda hopeless. But what if there was another way? A way to draw aggro without attacking, just for Elmer of the Briar. Remember that ruptured crystal tier we got? This is the real reason we got it for. If we take a little shortcut to Lindell from the southern peninsula of Limgrave, we can make it to this elevator. This also has the HP regen talisman, which is great for this run. So all we gotta do is make it to the bottom of the elevator using the ruptured tier. Just drink and walk off. Okay, well, not quite. That got patched. The new way to do it is to just drink the tier, do a jumping attack, and let the tier ragdoll you to the bottom. On the first try, we make it down the elevator. After that, we can enter the fortified manor. And appreciate fine art. Now we'll have to solve the painting. With big brain IQ, we grab our golden ticket to beating Elmer, Fire's deadly sin.
Yeah, boy.
If you're unfamiliar with the spell, it basically lights you on fire and you deal constant tick damage around you, like Immolation from Dark Souls 2. This constant tick damage actually fully draws aggro, meaning we can now distract Elmer long enough for Latenna to kill him. Now I know what you're thinking. Hey, that's an attack, that's an offensive spell. You're awful at life and you should just die. Actually, it's a body buff. I'm just buffing my character. The tick damage is just a happy little accident. Yeah, I know I'm treading on technicalities, but I think it's fun and thematic. Burning my body as a sign of faith for Latenna. Speaking of faith, we don't have enough to use this spell. Not to worry though, we'll just revisit an old friend and hold him at bow point for his runes. Just put Latenna up here and let her work.
Why are we still here? Just to suffer?
You know, I'm actually going to be playing RuneScape whenever Latenna does this. Actually, you know what? Let me add another condition to the run. If there's a way that I don't have to do anything for a boss, I have to go for it. Don't mind me just checking my herbs while Latenna gets me a paycheck. After he dies of...
I'm dying. Help me.
natural causes, I boost my faith up so I can use Fire's Deadly Sin. Now we can go back and kick Elimer's ass. I say that, but I have to realize I'm barely above base level. And this is Elimer. Yeah, I just have to draw aggro, but I'm drawing aggro against a dude that could send me to the Shadow Realm if he looks at me hard enough.
Get the fuck out of here, trash.
On top of that, I have to keep reapplying Fire's Deadly Sin so I can keep aggro. Furthermore, I'm literally burning what little health I have to keep aggro. It takes a couple of tries of course, but I eventually...
I got you, fam.
take him down. After celebrating my victory, I grabbed the Briar armor and embraced my newfound role as Latenna's paladin. Or so I thought. I have to beat a shard bearer to actually buy the Briar armor. Thankfully, we do have Fire's Deadly Sin, so we can make up for not having it for the next fight. I pick the go-to shard bearer, good old Godric, and start spreading my religion. I actually don't have to hold aggro for this fight. I just have to drag him away from Latenna at the beginning, and he'll never target her afterward. Fire's Deadly Sin helps us grab that little bit of aggro at the beginning to lure him away. The second phase isn't any different. All I do is walk backward while he gets shot down. With his unfortunate demise, now I actually buy Briar armor. If you're unsure why I needed this armor so badly, you're about to see why. From this point on, we can do any boss we want thanks to the armor. With just the gloves, you'll do 1 damage every time you roll near a boss. Now the thing is, this 1 damage counts as a full hit for the purposes of drawing aggro. It's also not a direct attack. Basically, I use this armor to keep Latenna safe by dodging attacks from bosses while also inflicting the damage from rolling to keep aggro. If I roll into bosses as they attack, I'm naturally avoiding being hit while the armor keeps their attention. The more they attack me, the more I dodge into their attacks, and the more aggro the armor draws. Now, if the armor isn't enough to hold aggro, we still have Fire's Deadly Sin, but there's very few bosses where I think it's required. With all that being said, we're gonna do a boss rush with Latenna. My goal at this point is to level myself up as high as I can with the most accessible bosses that I have. Because at this point, Latenna is no longer the weak link. I am. I'll notate the situation for each one and just make a quick summary of how the fight goes. So let's get to it. Clean Rot Knights. I actually think they're one of the few bosses that requires Fire's Deadly Sin. I picked them first for the gold scarab for extra runes before I start taking out the other bosses. They don't have a lot of health, so it's a short fight. It's just hectic keeping aggro between the two of them in such a small arena. A Putrid Avatar. I love this boss because he's so easy. He's even easier with Latenna, and he drops a crazy amount of runes for it. I just ran around in a circle until he died. Flying Dragon Grail. Grail? He's a bit of a weird one. I tried having Latenna safe spot him, but it doesn't work if you're next to her. It works a lot better for some reason if you're on the bridge. You can still hit her, but it's very rare. He's also really slow, so Latenna gets easy shots off. Black Blade Kindred. I fucking hate Black Blade Kindred. I'm not getting anywhere near him. I can do Ishin and Melania without getting hit, but not this piece of shit. He's insanely easy with Latenna since all you have to do is walk forward and backward to break his leash range, but I still hate him. He does drop a lot of runes though. Margit 2. He just walks menacingly towards us while dying. He can throw his little bananas for some damage, but nothing noteworthy. Tree Sentinels. You can split them up, which makes it that much easier. What I ended up doing was healing Latenna to full health before engaging the second one. You do have to stay on top of keeping aggro though, since they're so mobile. A Gargoyle. He's a relative of Black Blade Kindred, so I hate him due to that, but he's really easy. He moves erratically though, so I had to reset his position for Latenna to get line of sight. A Godskin Apostle. He can get close enough to do some damage, but the leash range forces him to teleport away anyway. If you left them alone, Latenna would probably need a heal or two to win, but other than that, easy fight, nothing special. Wormface. The best option for him is to actually have Latenna just fight him 1v1. Taking out his guardians is important since they'll actually kill her though. Aside from that, Latenna does so much damage to the point where he can't kill her faster than she can kill him. She also can't get grabbed by him, so that's a lot of his damage wasted. And also why I don't want to play decoy. Black Knife. This is actually the boss where I discover how to abuse the leash range. She can hit Latenna a few times when getting close, but if you left them alone, Latenna would win. I still heal her up anyway because I love her.
Stop it. Get some help.
A Tree Spirit. One of my favorite bosses to use Latenna on. Tree Spirit's so chaotic to fight, so having Latenna just shoot him while he shambles back and forth is so satisfying to watch. A Knight's Cavalry. It was actually pretty hard to figure out where his leash ended. You have to summon her and have her shoot him as he teleports. If one arrow lands, the leash teleport loop starts and he's a goner. She's also really good at shooting the knight and not the horse. Decaying... Exikes? He's insanely easy with Latenna. All he does is breathe cancer on you while Latenna shoots him in the tail. It's not 100% safe. His big downward breath can still hit you, but he doesn't attack Latenna even if you run away. A second Putrid Avatar. If you left them alone, Latenna would win eventually, but he stops under her safe spot and just stands there sometimes. It's the same thing with a Gargoyle. I have to drag him into line of sight to speed it up. Easy fight, and I really like the safe spot. The Tree Sentinel at the beginning. Same deal as the Flying Dragon. She can safe spot him if you're not sitting next to her. Nothing special, easy fight. Flying Dragon Agil. Same deal as the other dragon and the Sentinel from before. The safe spot works better if you're not next to her. She could probably 1v1 him if you really wanted. Patches. Okay, you actually can't summon Latenna for Patches. I just ended up rolling on him until he gave up. He doesn't count since Latenna's not an option, so we'll move on. A second Knight's Cavalry. I tried really hard to get Latenna to try and leash him. He drops Barricade Shield, which is really good for this run, and there's a summonable spot farther away from him, but I just couldn't get Latenna to target him. I ended up just smothering him with my faith for Latenna until he died. I'd say he doesn't count since Latenna can't hit him. I'll also have Barricade Shield, but it's totally not necessary for this run. I was just upset that I couldn't get it to work. Erdtree Avatar. Erdtree Avatars can one-shot Latenna with their Golden Land attack. You don't have to draw aggro that much, only when he starts getting too close. She could 1v1 him if she gets lucky and he doesn't use Golden Land. Another Erdtree Avatar. He spams Golden Land, which would normally one-shot her, but the safe spot blocks most, if not all of it. On top of that, if you look closely, Latenna can shoot through the damn rocks. The arrows hit the cliff, but he still takes damage anyway. I even made sure by jumping off the cliff and watching it from the bottom. I don't know why she can do this, but it makes this fight really easy. Glintstone Dragon Smaragd. Hilariously easy. The safe spot is pretty hard to get to though. Hopefully I don't lose all these runes trying to... Once she's up there, he can't do anything. It also looks great to just watch this happen. You can even see the day-night cycle run through as this happens. I also cash in my runes because of fear. Full-grown Falling Star Beast. I also don't like this boss. His hitboxes are obnoxious to me. Latenna makes him really easy though. His big arena is his downfall. Gotta watch out for the magic, but not too bad. Mommy Dragon. Now you'd think this would be easy, but no, it's actually pretty hard. Latenna can't target Mommy Dragon directly, so we gotta do it the normal way by taking out the kids. The amount of aggro management sucks. You have to play decoy for all of them and in small pockets of land, because if you get too close to another one, you'll aggro multiple dragons and just die. They also hurt because of the buffs they have. You can heal Latenna in between engagements, but it's quite an endurance test. I cash it again at this point because she drops a ton of runes. Draconic Tree Sentinel. If you keep it with the healing, you don't have to play decoy at all. Latenna does a great job of doing DPS to him faster than he can burst her down. Easy fight, pretty funny to watch. Dragonkin Soldier. This one took a little while to get to, but he guards a great Ghost Word, which we'll definitely need later. He's not too bad, kinda scary to keep aggro on though. Another Dragonkin Soldier. He can get close enough to hit Latenna, but he doesn't for some reason. I don't even try to draw aggro, he just keeps hitting me. Ancestor Spirit. The last boss for the lightning round. He's actually really annoying for Latenna, not a good matchup. He's super mobile, even while attacking, so Latenna has a hard time hitting him. If he targets her, you're playing a game of catch-up due to his speed. His HP is low though, so this makes up for it. He's not hard, but just annoying. Alright, I think that was 28 bosses. That got us from level 32 to 70, so now we're significantly tankier for Latenna. With this newfound thickness, we can start doing mainline bosses and see how far we can go. We need a second Sharp Bearer to beat the game normally, so our options are Renala and Rykard. Radon isn't one because you can't summon Latenna for him. Rykard wouldn't be an impossible option, but let's try out Renala. First obstacle is the Red Wolf of Radagon. Despite me and Latenna being overleveled, his mobility is really bad for Latenna, so she ends up taking a lot of damage. After he gets put down, it's straight up to Renala. There's no enemies that have to die for me to get to her, so I can just ignore everyone.
I gotta commit seppuku.
He did that to himself. I had nothing to do with that. So how does Latenna deal with a gimmick boss like Renala? The first option is to do the gimmick myself, with Fire's Deadly Sin and rolling into the Golden Kids. Latenna and I work together to whittle away Renala's health after knocking her down. It takes about 20 minutes of just doing this, but I didn't like this method because it feels like I'm not really using Latenna, so I do it another way. The second option is to try and lure as many kids into the middle and take out any kids that are staying on the outside. If Latenna is in the middle, she'll eventually shoot down the Golden Kid and then Renala. This method is pretty much all RNG. Now it does work eventually. The thing is, I honestly can't tell you how long it took. When I was recording this method, my OBS crashed at some point because of how long the fight was taking, and all I had was a corrupted file that was about 3 hours long, so it could have been longer. I did start recording again after I hit phase 2 and this happened.
Whoa! I'm about to end this man's whole career.
No, don't do it.
So yeah, I'm never doing this method again. The third option, if you're not insane like I am, is to use the ritual blood pot to force Latenna to target someone. And before you say, that's not utility, that's doing direct damage, you can throw the pot next to an enemy and still mark them without doing damage to them. This takes about 5 minutes, you know, a reasonable amount of time. Phase 2 isn't that bad at all, even with her summons. Renala naturally backs away from you, so Latenna doesn't take aggro. It's just if Latenna does get targeted by the homing magic, she'll probably get one shot. So it's important to keep an eye on her. Now you might agree with me when I say, I didn't like how that fight felt. It didn't feel like Latenna did it herself. Since I wasn't pleased with that fight, I actually did Rykart with Latenna also. His fight is really simple. As long as you roll into his attacks, you'll always keep aggro because he attacks with his body. If you lose aggro, it's pretty hard to get it back, and there's a high chance Latenna will get one shot. There's not much else to say other than this fight took me 30 minutes of straight focus. I am not going to fit that fight into this video, but I have it uploaded without any editing. With that being said, let's move on. At this point, I think Latenna could use an upgrade to plus 10. We need Ghost Word 8 and 9 since we have the Great Ghost Word from the Dragonkin Soldier from the well. A surprisingly easy way to do this is to just do Vari's quest to get into Mog's Palace. No fighting is required either, even during the invasion part. If you quit the invasion 3 times, it still counts for completion.
And who's that?
Sayonara.
We take the free ride to Mog's Palace and grab the goods, Ghost Word 8, 9, and this talisman for extra holy mitigation. And while we're at it, why don't we take out Mog? Latenna's at her maximum potential for now, so it would be a great time to do it. Before doing that, I grab the Bloody Physic.
Can't make it, the shit's stuck. Out of my way, son! Door's stuck! Door's stuck! Please! I beg you!
So now we're all prepared, a maxed out Latenna, stacked HP regen, a great shield for defense, and the Briar armor. His arena is nice and big too, so we can actually use PT range to our advantage. This should be easy, right?
You say, I like sex. Mm-hmm. What kind of a thing is that to say? To a 13-year-old kid?
And I'll talk about anything.
You talk about coming her and maybe cutting her and tasting her blood.
Okay, well, you know, people...
So that's normal? Yikes.
Gotcha, bitch.
Is mine.
I'm in danger.
I wasn't kidding when I said I was the weak link in this relationship. Blocking is pretty much useless due to the chip damage and the bleed, so I have to get good and dodge. I also have to keep a close eye on spacing because the flames are a type of area of denial. Rather than turtling up too much, I stay mobile while keeping Latenna out of his PT range. This way I don't get cornered and I don't put Latenna in danger. Of course, I can only survive so long against an endgame boss.
That's a lot of damage.
So when he gets low enough, I run away to Latenna for help. Due to his lack of speed, Latenna can get a good number of shots off before he reaches her. With his defeat, we get over 600,000 runes and get absolutely massive. Following this, I got even more runes from the Godskin Apostle in the Kayla Tower. Pretty easy to keep his aggro and to drag him away from Latenna, so this fight is essentially free. I go to Lindell and do the level skip so we can keep up this momentum.
Hold up.
That actually got fixed, so I had to run through normally. I make it to Spooky Godfrey and have Latenna challenge him. Very easy to keep him away from Latenna. If you want to hear a shameful confession, I'm actually really bad at dodging Godfrey, so I like using a shield for him. Afterward, I grab the Ritual Shield Talisman nearby, which reduces the damage you take when you're at full HP. With the HP regen, we can reactivate it without having to pop a heal. Before taking out Morgott, I take a trip into the sewers and rush to the bottom. Oh look, it's Great Value Mog. If Latenna can take out Premium Mog, she can take out this loser. The only difference is that PT range doesn't work on Great Value Mog, because the arena's too small, so we have to play decoy. Back up to Lindell and straight to Morgott. Also an easy fight. He may be pretty mobile, but his arena is big, so it's easier to keep him away from Latenna. On top of that, he doesn't move for his big attacks, so Latenna easily gets shots on him. He gets taken down, and we meet a pretty good girl. Not as good as Latenna though. Following this, I go to the Lindell Tower for Mog's rune. The Omen twins aren't hard, but I don't know if they have a PT range because, well, the arena's dark. It's pretty cool to see Latenna's arrows against the darkness though. Mog's rune will be very handy from this point on because it increases the damage Latenna does just for having it activated. For another upgrade, I head back down to the sewers for the fingerprint shield, which will solidify our tankiness. Damn it. Fuck. Oh my god. After quitting out of the game for about 15 minutes, I finally get the shield. I also grab the Holy Whetstone in the fortified manner since we'll need it later on. I reallocate my stats to focus on using the Great Shield and for the HP soft cap without the Source Seal. I personally find that the extra stats from the Source Seal aren't worth it due to the extra damage you take for having it on. We'll also need some upgrade stones to make this shield better, so I go ahead and grab the bell bearings for stones. The second bell bearing is just a pickup, but the first one is a boss. No problem, we could just have Latenna take care of it. After 10 minutes of doing literal single digit damage, I get the damn bell bearing. I also grab the Great Shield Talisman for a better guard boost. We upgrade our fingerprint shield to plus 12, making us near immortal to anything that we can block. I decided to test its power against Lanciax.
I have the power of God and anime on my side!
Wait,
Yeah, it's gonna be pretty useful. Lanciax also goes down without a problem. So we got Latenna to plus 10, soft capped our HP, got the fingerprint shield, and all the mitigation we can get. We're pretty much at our max potential for the rest of the playthrough, so we can push on through the rest of the game. I run on through the mandatory snow area in every RPG and get to... I fucking hate Blackblade Kindred. This one has a safe spot though, so it's pretty easy. Just heal and let Latenna do her thing. Still hate him though. I truck on through and grab the next bell bearing for the fingerprint shield. I keep moving forward and take the left path first for Deathrite Bird. Latenna has an interesting safe spot for him. Whether or not she can solo him is pretty 50-50. Sometimes she'll take no damage, and other times you'll need to heal her a fair bit. Following his demise, I take the right path for Borealis. His arena is one of the biggest in the game. It's big enough to the point where Latenna loses targeting on him because he's too far away. I ended up putting Latenna behind some cover, so some of his attacks would whiff. I healed her up and had her brute force Borealis down, sorta like Draconic Sentinel. I zigzag back around to the left and enter Fort Sol. I want to do Millennia at some point, so Commander Niall is required. No problem, let's just hop in here and oh. Wait a minute. Fire's Deadly Sin is absolutely required. There is no way you could keep aggro on the 2 banished knights just by rolling. The arena is also one of the smallest in the game, meaning you have to keep aggro on all 3 of them the entire time. There's no safe spot and there's no PT range. Then even once the knights are down, there's the problem of dealing with Yaw himself. Oh, he's not hard. The problem is he does that lightning jump and just dunks on her. You still have to catch up to him once he does it, so she's gonna take at least 1 additional hit. It's the most hectic fight with a very low threshold for making mistakes. Easily in the top 3 for the hardest fights to do with Latenna. But it's not impossible. If you can really draw aggro until Latenna can get at least 1 of them down, then the fight becomes a lot more manageable. Once both the knights are down, it's possible to keep him in an aggro loop by rolling into him during his lightning jump. If you keep doing that, he'll tend to spam it and you can just keep rolling into the next one. It's just a matter of keeping that aggro loop going so Latenna stays safe. After about 30 tries and more hours than I would like to admit, Niall finally goes down. And after the pain and suffering, I'm definitely going to the consecrated snowfield. Well, that was probably the worst fight so far. Man, I don't even know if it was worth it at this point.
It is I, Latenna. We
Oh
have
my
reached the
goodness.
last Michael's haling tree, where Lobo and I began our
Lord have
travels.
mercy, I'm about to
It
bust.
is only thanks to you that I'm so close to home.
After wandering through the snow, I go over to the magma worm Theodorix. There's a safe spot for Latenna here, so I go ahead and play RuneScape. He also guards a dragon smithing stone so we can max out our shield. Before I head over to Fire Giant, I have to finish Latenna's questline. I can't call myself down bad for Latenna if I don't do her quest. Not to mention her sister is rather... Now the weeaboo here invades me, which I was concerned about at first, but then I remembered the big enemies can hurt him. I have him chase me into the enemies while both of us literally die from the crossfire. With him out of the way, I prepare to knock out Fire Giant. Latenna's apparently well known for being good at the Fire Giant. How I do it is that I get him stuck inside the entrance to the fog gate, so he keeps rolling inside. Latenna just shoots him while he fails to blast me through the cliff. Maybe there's something I'm missing that makes it even easier, but he goes down all the same. With him out of the way, we can get to Faramazula, the last stretch of the game before becoming Elden Lord. I rush straight to Godskin Duo, which at first I thought were going to be really difficult with Latenna. However, I actually managed to find their PT range, which made the fight much more doable. If you put Latenna up against the wall and keep them at the other end, you can actually turtle up without having to draw aggro. Putting them to sleep also makes it very easy to set up the distance from Latenna. It's not required, because it's not impossible to just have them chase you to the other side, but it's an option. Once they're down, we can max out the fingerprint shield, which would be very useful for Malekith. Running on through, we head straight to Malekith, because I'm trying to end this video. The 2 phases are different in the ways that you deal with them. Phase 1, he's extremely erratic in his movement. He likes to jump backward into Latenna, so playing decoy is way better than trying to lure him away. Latenna can afford to take some damage, and blocking is also very easy. In phase 2, we don't have to draw aggro because he ends up at the perfect spot for PT range, but blocking isn't a good option for obvious reasons. Latenna shoots him pretty okay, but I don't have the Blasphemous Claw where I'd use it to parry his dangerous moves. This makes it a bit harder to survive long enough until Latenna finishes him off. Once he's down, we can just mosey straight through Ashen Lindell. First obstacle here is Gideon Ofnir, quite literally Latenna's antagonist. And as it turns out, she absolutely destroys him. There's plenty of time to position her just right and engage him. All you have to do is literally back up and he gets deleted by Latenna. He even casts magic less because he has to spam rolls to dodge Latenna's arrows, so you don't have to deal with as much magic. This is exactly like RuneScape's combat triangle where rangers beat mages. After Latenna gets her revenge, we can move on to the next boss, not Spooky Godfrey. It's the same arena as Morgott. We don't have to keep aggro due to the PT range, and phase 1 isn't an issue because I could just block everything to make up for my sucky dodging.
Oh my god, bro. Oh, hell no, man. What the fuck?
But phase 2 is a different story. I have the hardest time dodging his grapples.
Life is pain! I hate my...
Now if you're good at dodging, unlike me, this is an easy fight. But if you are me, you rely on the Ritual Shield Talisman to make up for your skill issue. You take a hit, it does not that much damage, and you heal up to full to activate it again. After I take credit for Latenna's strength, there's only one boss left before beating the game. But you didn't think I forgot about Latenna, did you? I go back to the snowfield and do the liturgical town jail. Actually a bit of a puzzle, because I can't kill her sisters. I just rolled into them and knocked them off the roof so I could light the candles. After that, I run through to Loretta. It's a really easy fight because she's a big, easy target to hit, and her arena is very, very big. You just hold block and laugh in her face while she gets sniped by Latenna. Following that, I bum rush through the Halig tree, grab this Dragon Crest Great Shield Talisman for more defense, and I make it to Latenna. Now, Niall was pretty bad because of the aggro management for the knights and him, but Latenna is known for breaking some rules, so even though it's just her, she's very deserving of this title. As one of the easiest bosses I have ever done, she's a f***ing joke with Latenna, I'm not even exaggerating. I've done videos about this before, but basically, she'll dodge projectiles if you're looking at her. However, if you look away to the side, she rarely dodges, making it super easy for Latenna to just turn her into a pincushion. The aggro isn't a challenge either. Her arena is so big, it's easy to abuse her PC range and just run around. You only have to draw aggro for like the first 20 seconds of the fight to drag her away from Latenna. Even if you were to block every single one of her big moves, if you suck at dodging, you would still win. Fortunately, I'm good enough at dodging her deadly moves, so it's even easier. Having that mindset of prepared to dodge makes it so good for learning how to deal with Latenna's special attacks. After Latenna makes a total embarrassment of her, undefeated my ass, I go back to the Elden Throne and prepare to take my title with Latenna. This requires a particular setup, which is why I gathered specific items. We need a holy infused shield, which is why we get the holy whetstone, holy resistant armor, and defensive talismans that boost mitigation. With all these tools in hand, we have about 60% mitigation for physical and holy damage, with her shield having 94% holy negation when blocking. This all stacks up really well, as you'll see soon. The final boss is probably behind Niall for being the hardest to do with Latenna. The biggest reason for this is the PT range. Radagon's PT range is massive. It almost covers his entire arena. Latenna can lose targeting on Radagon because it's so big. You have to draw aggro, hardcore, and really get him far away from Latenna to stop him from targeting her. He's extremely aggressive and he's mobile, meaning if you don't keep her out of his PT range, he will teleport to her while throwing that holy magic and just delete her before you can ever catch up. This is the reason we stack up our mitigation. It's better to stay relatively still and maintain our distance from Latenna. This is much easier if you could just turtle up and roll sparingly. Whatever damage he does, we can just regenerate it with all of our tankiness. Alright, but that's only Radagon. Why is Elden Beast a problem for Latenna? Well, Latenna doesn't have any problems hitting him. I mean, he's enormous. I would argue that she probably has the best damage out of all the summons in the game on him, just because she can hit him so reliably. Here's the problem though. This is the only boss in the game that I'm aware of that does not have a PT range. He's able to target Latenna from anywhere in his arena, no matter what. You must keep aggro 100% of the time. Combine this with his mobility despite being so large, and you end up with a lot of pressure to keep his attention. The majority of his attacks are also multi-hit projectiles. If you thought Golden Land or Renala's homing magic was bad for Latenna, Elden Beast can one-shot her with almost any of the spells. Thankfully, it's not a very long fight because the DPS is just that good, but there's very little room for error. One important thing I figured out is that whenever he does the Elden Ring attack, he ends up opposite of where he is in the air as he's casting. You have to run in the opposite direction before he reappears. This is the only way you can draw aggro before he targets Latenna. This is also why we have mitigation, because we can't afford to be careful with our rolls. We have to roll to draw aggro even if it means taking damage at this point. The shield and the armor are there for us to make her health more valuable because we're expecting to take full hits for Latenna. But alas, even with the odds stacked against her, against a god that can kill her in a single blow, Latenna prevails. But now that we're at the end of the game, there's only one thing left to do. And that's to wait for the DLC. To everyone who's been waiting for this, if there is anyone, I'm sorry that this video took so long to come out, but I've never touched video editing before, let alone content creation, and this is quite literally my first attempt at either of those categories. I was really worried about this being good enough to watch like I imagine most people would, but I think I can live with what I've made, and if someone out there enjoys it, then that's good enough for me. But I do want to end this video on a positive note and not me being self-conscious. So I'm pretty sure most of you have heard of Baldur's Gate 3, and most people are praising the studio and the polished state of the game and all that. But personally, what I like is how inclusive the game seems to be. This game has people who have never even considered playing D&D picking it up because it has such a good reputation. And the people who are into these type of games are just embracing all the new people coming in and encouraging people to play it. I'm kind of jealous because I really wish the Souls community and other game communities in general would be so open to just embracing new people coming in. Like, I really wish Souls-like games and Monster Hunter and games like Dark Tide or Remnant 2 would be more inclusive like Baldur's Gate 3. Because I don't like the gatekeepers in any of these communities. I believe that you should play a game however you want and no one else should tell you that it's the incorrect way to play or that it doesn't count because it's too easy. So if you're one of those people where you feel anxiety from these type of gatekeepers, I will at least fully encourage you to pick up whatever you want and play however you want. So if you want to try Armored Core 6 for example, because you liked Elden Ring, don't let a gatekeeper tell you that you can't play it, just pick it up and play it and have fun. So that's all I want to say. Thank you for watching up to this point, and I fully encourage you, like I said, to play similar games to this. So if you want to try the other Dark Souls games, you want to try Sekiro, Remnant 2, go for it without feeling the pressure of playing the wrong way. So thank you, and enjoy yourself.